Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for you that are watching us now or that you will watch in the future. This shot here, I have a very good pleasure that we will discuss today two important topics with Andrew. It's will be something that I really believe that you enjoy and will be helpful. You that are working in the cost estimation area, but also if you are working in a different areas in project management, these two topics are very helpful because they can affect different periods of the life cycle of any project. So Angel, thanks for joining here. Thanks for your time. And I would like just initially asking if you can introduce yourself for that the team that will be watching us here now and will be watching in the future as well.
Of course. First of all, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Helber, for inviting me to come on to your live stream, your cast. My name is Andrew Langridge. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, but I'm an estimator by vocation, by profession. Um, People have called me a bit of an estimating nerd at points and times, but I work for Sterling DCS. We have a cost and carbon estimating tool that's been becoming very popular with the construction industry and the wider industries around that. I'm also a visiting professor at the University of Bath, where we teach the next generation of engineers to come through, both civil engineers and mechanical engineers. We teach them estimating, how to estimate, what to estimate, why estimate is important. Um, and it's something I really love. It's something I really enjoy doing.
Great, great. I will introduce myself as well. So um, my name is Helber Macedo. I have been working in oil and gas industry for the last 15 years. Um, I am not an engineer, I'm a physicist. I have two master degrees, one in geophysics and another in renewables. And I am a costing manager at Baker Hughes. We develop here cost estimation for the subsea equipments. And I would like that you that watch us, if you can type where are you from, will be great because then we can see what is the countries that are watching us here. Um, and I think that I will try just to start when I can see one comment here is asking about how to make a career in the cost estimator. I think that I will just give an overview and maybe Andy, you can uh, share your view as well before you start talk about base of the estimate. I think
Yeah,
that first thing you need to like numbers. No, you need to like numbers
I,
because number will be something
yeah,
very important for your career. But maybe, Andy, if you can share in your view,
yeah.
what do we need to do to make a career in the cost estimation?
So there's been a joke, a running joke for a long time in the estimation profession of what are we? What do we do? What are our estimators? Nobody knows. But actually, we are scope detectives. You need to be a detective to do our job. You need to see beyond the drawing. If someone gives you a drawing, you need to see beyond the drawing. What is the intent of this product? What is the intent of this asset? What does it need to do? Because remember, estimating is not just physical things, not just mechanical parts for cars and washing machines, and not just construction, civil stuff, but also software. We have to estimate software. We have to estimate the integration of software and hardware together. So first of all, you have to be a detective. You have to really love asking questions. You have to ask a lot of questions. If you just love spreadsheets, go be an accountant, right? If you just love spreadsheets and numbers, go and be an accountant. If you love stories, if you love understanding the story with numbers, if you love evidencing what you think with numbers, then you can be an estimator. How do you make a career in cost estimating? We're beginning to see careers in cost estimating. So some of the bigger organizations have now career paths for estimators. They may or may not start out as a project controls person, but estimating is certainly one of the five cornerstones of project controls. But you also need to stay curious and and just stay curious. try and get into the costing teams, try and get into the estimating teams. Look for people who are asking for estimators, and but build your experience. Don't just stay in one. Don't just stay in one path. Do estimate. If someone says, "Can you estimate this?" Say, "Yeah, I can do that," because it's all about asking the right questions and getting the right evidence. And we're going to talk about one of the fundamentals today, Prashant. We're going to talk about one of the big fundamentals, which is the basis of estimate. And the basis of estimate is the story of the estimate. It's telling the story of this. I hope that helps. I'm happy. By the way, you can reach to me on LinkedIn, and I'm very happy to take that conversation about how to have a career in cost estimating a bit further with you one to one afterwards.
Yeah, and one thing that can help as well, I think there are some institutions that they can provide training, like a cost E, that you can go and you can learn more about this topic as well. But so let's start talk about base of the estimate. So um, you start give some idea what is the base of the estimate. But Andrew, in your view, um, so what is the objective that you have this base of the estimate? What is this? Is a document? What is this? A
Yeah.
software? What is this? That what's the base of the estimate, and why is a good idea to have this document
Okay.
or
It's not,
this thing?
yeah, yeah. First of all, it's not one thing. It can be a separate document. I prefer them when they're embedded inside the estimate, so they're contextualized. So for me, the basis of estimate is the contextualization of the numeric description of the job. So I have a number pattern which tells me the resources that I need to fulfill the obligations of the work, the scope, but I need to explain why they're there. I always look for five different things when I'm doing the basis of estimate, when I'm teaching the basis of estimate. So I'm looking for the scope. Now, what am I looking for the scope? What am I really looking for? I'm looking for, in my experience, this the client's given me the scope, or my internal client's given me the scope. What I'm trying to help with though is what's missing, right? So I've done 17 of these estimates, and in every other one, this thing has been in there. That needs to go into my base investment. This for me was missing from this whole project. It's it's not in the scope. And then the unexpected things that you see in the scope. You come across page 74, and there's this paragraph about something you're like, whoa, why is that in this scope? What does that mean in this job? Okay. So first thing is scope. What's missing? What's unexpected? And then I need four things in one. I need my assumptions, my constraints, my inclusions, and my exclusions. So when I see students at university, when we're going through and helping them understand how to build very primitive cost estimates, we ask them for the exclusions. It's really easy to say in an estimate what's in. Really easy. Really challenging sometimes to say, what's out. And you actually have to be more specific on what's not included than what is included. Okay, so that's the thing. Data provenance. Sorry, you were going to ask a question,
Yeah,
Helber.
no, one thing that I will ask you, what's your perception? Because one of the key points that you have when you are building a cost estimation is the communications, no? Because we have a lot of functions working to build your cost estimation. You have the engineer, you have the procurement, you have the cost estimation. I don't know, you have a planning. All these areas will be working together and you sharing information, emails, messages, documents, purchase orders. I don't know, all this material that we will need, and how we can how the base estimate could
Okay.
be help to, for example, and if
Yeah.
is a question as well, do you believe that the base of estimate could help in the future for claims, for some
Okay.
things that you have problems, the relationship between the owner and the contractor?
Okay. Yes. Easy answer. That's an easy answer. Yes. So let me just because I want to come to documentation and this in a second.
Okay.
So we talked about the scope. What's unusual. We talked about our assumptions. And we talked about that. The big thing is data provenance. Okay, data provenance. Where did the data come from? I've got 27 of these things. Where did that 27 come from? Okay. If you're using reference class modeling, what reference models did you use? Okay. If you're using third-party data sources like BCIS or National Schedule of Rates, where did it come from? What year was it? How did you escalate that? Then you come to what you were talking about, the documentation. So in my projects, I like to keep, there's a list of official documents, which is the drawings, the scope descriptions. Maybe you're using one of the nice tools for doing scope. But there's also what I call the decision diary. Okay, people forget to do the decision diary. And this is about how do I capture the way we're making decisions in this job. So let's say I'm talking to planning about how we're going to deliver this particular item. Where does that discussion go? It goes in my decision diary. I have a decision to make. I have a discussion list, whether it's just references, URLs to the emails or URLs to a collection of emails. But I need a decision diary. This is my decision. This is why you've ended up with this estimate, sir, because of all these decisions. Um, and then the other things that people can add sometimes, I love to use contingency, but I don't like to just say 20% on the bottom line. I like to calculate the contingency. How do I calculate contingency? Uncertainty. This needs to be, so the uncertainty needs to be documented in my basis of estimate. Why did I use this uncertainty range? And you've got some good reference models again for uncertainty. The AACE models are very good for this. And then risk. Now, risk, you really do need to work with risk experts because risk can be very challenging if you just guess at it. You're going to be in all sorts of trouble. So that's my basis of estimate, Helber. Everything you do, every decision you take should be in your decision diary. Very rarely do I see that. Now, that may or may not go to the client, but you certainly want it in your back pocket if something challenging happens later on, that you've got a reference for all of this stuff. That's my
Yeah,
my
so this
thoughts.
is, I think that is your final sentence will be our next part about the base of the estimate. Okay, I finish my course now. I have my number. I have my base of the estimate was done. Um, how what do you use the base of the estimate during the execution phase? No, because I have the execution phase. When do you use the best estimate? What the moments? For example,
Okay.
could be a claim, could be something that the client is saying, then I will use the reference, or something is missing, then I can
Yeah.
use to investigate. When do you use the base of the estimate during the execution?
You can use it in many places. But the first place is if you use it to contextualize your estimate. So if I'm doing an estimate for you, Helber, and you've asked me to do an estimate for a job for you, and I'm trying to win this job for you, I can use the basis of estimate to make it easy for you to understand my estimate, to make it easy for you to buy from me. So that's the first one. I use it in a sales environment. I use it in the proposal environment. If I win the job, if I'm very lucky and I win the job from you, and I have to pass it over to my execution team, the basis of estimate forms the absolute foundation for me telling you what we believed was the correct way of delivering that job. Now, I've so often seen that, we in business winning, we win the work, we throw the thing over the wall, and some poor chap in the other side has to unpick our numbers and like, well, we don't do it that way. We never work that way. Okay. It may have been that the client asked for us to lay out the estimate in a certain way that these guys have never seen. So our basis of estimate is our handover story. That's what I was saying. If you want to be an estimator, you have to be a good storyteller. I need to take my ops team through the win, through the basis of estimate, through the story, so they understand where they can flex, because there will be some flex in there. They have to be some flexibility in there. But where they really do need to take note of the kind of key assumptions and the key things. And if you're in a smart company, and we all like to think we're in a smart company, those assumptions, those restrictions, those uh, other things, I would have checked with the ops people. I would have gone downstairs to the guy who's going to actually be putting this together and gone, does this make sense to you? I'm just about to put this bid in. Does this make sense to you? Are my assumptions really valid these days? Is there other ways of doing stuff that I've missed? So tell your story, to tell your story, to hand it over. And then, sadly, we know when we come to sometimes when we're in the operational sphere, things don't go as we plan, or we have some productivity challenges, or the client changes their mind 20 times. And we need to evidence that there has been change and that there is change. Every change, every single change you do, you need a new basis of estimate for that change. Every single time. And then when you go and so we've all had it when we've had to go and defend claims, then you've got some evidence to go to the arbitrators with and say, look, yeah, I know it's £1 million more than we said, but this is the reasons why. This is my decision diary. This is my scope changes. This is my base of estimate for each of the scope changes. And it tells a story. And again, come back to what I said at the beginning. If you want to be an estimator, be a storyteller. If you want to be just using spreadsheets, be an accountant. Nothing wrong with
Great.
accountancy.
No, great, Andrew. Um, and I believe that the base of the estimate is nothing something that you and I we create. It's something that you can see the majority of the institutions you see in the documents, for example, from A cost E, that is a recommendation,
Yeah,
is a good practice that we need to have this document using, trying to do and curate if you're working in the cost estimation. Uh, I strongly recommend that you try to curate your base of the estimate, and you have this historical information as well that you support during the execution. Also, like Andrew said, I totally agree. The handover, it's a very powerful
yeah.
tool to support the handover process.
It,
And
you can always, this is an APM acoustic estimating guide. It tells you a lot in here about how to do the basis of estimate properly and how to do things. This
great,
is free. If you're an APM member, this is free of charge. So
great. Um, and just because you talk about one reference, I will talk on another second reference that you know that I wrote a book about cost engineer, and in this book you will find as well you have a giveaway in the end of this live here, and in this book one of the sections is just talk about the base of the estimate, the importance of this document to support during the build your estimation. Also, what's the benefit of it?
mm, I think
Um,
your book is fast becoming one of the textbooks that people really need on their bookshelf. You know, I try and keep a lot of you can't see my bookshelf, but I try and keep a lot of books around cost engineering. This your book, Helber, will certainly become one of those that is on everybody's shelf because it's it's detailed enough that it's useful, but it's simple enough in its explanation that you can actually use it. So it doesn't matter if
yeah.
you're a newbie or an old bee, you can use this book as a very good reference guide.
Thank you, Andrew. I think that maybe anything else that you want to highlight about base of the estimate that it could be good to include in comment here now, Andrew.
No, I think we have a really good comment though from Shamindra Shamindra Singh.
Okay,
Typically, the estimate preparation plan is taken up further to develop base version. Absolutely. If you make a plan for your estimate, then this would tell you the sections that you need to annotate with a BOE. That's a really good comment. Thank you very much.
thank you. So now we will move for the second part of our live here, and second topic, and it's very important as well. And I can see that is increased the importance of the calculation for the embodied carbon calculation. And but maybe, and you, because you have more experience in this, you are working a tool that has this functionality as well. Can you start giving a review? What is this? In why we need to calculate the carbon in my cost estimation? What's the benefit of it? What is this thing?
That's a really good question, and one that is a lot of companies are struggling with at the moment. Sadly, there's three things that we need to think about when we think about what's happening. But first of all, um, there's legislation coming. There's legislation coming that says, for example, if you make a product, if you make a product that you want to sell into Europe, within the next 18 months, you will have to declare the embodied carbon in your product. And you have to certify that as being correct. It's called CBAM, and it's a law that's coming at us. If you want to do work in the UK for the government, or in Ireland for the government, above a certain size project, you have to provide a through life cost and carbon estimate. Okay, so what does that actually mean? What it means is it's actually not carbon. It's what's called CO2 equivalent. So it's anything that adds to basically anything that's a greenhouse gas, anything that could affect global warming, we convert to uh, what's called a global warming potential, and the global warming potential is expressed as CO2e, CO2 equivalent. To make it easy for us, they give us these numbers. We work in CO2e. Otherwise, we would be too complicated for most of us to work in. So we have CO2e, CO2 equivalent.
And normally, what is, if you can give an overview, what's the process to calculate it? Because, okay, if when talk about cost, we know overall, if you are working in this area, you know all the process, you have your takeoff, you need to have your cost reference, you need to have your planning to support. We have in your mind the sequence, but when I talk about this estimation, how is the process overall? You need to have a source of reference. Where is coming from
Okay.
this
So
information?
yeah, that what's going to be very shocking, Helber, is if you can do cost estimates and you understand data provenance in cost estimates. So you're not just making up numbers randomly. If you're using properly provenance data sets, maybe historic data sets, maybe other data sets, but if you're used to using provenance data, doing a carbon estimate is actually no more work than doing a cost estimate. And if you get the right data set together in the right way, it's actually you can do them at the same time. You won't see any additional work. The additional work is setting up the provenance, setting up the data. Okay. So what does it mean? So um, we have to think about many things when we're looking at estimating carbon. Okay. We need to look at the materials we're using and the material supplier or the product supplier. If I'm buying a valve, the valve manufacturer should give me what's called an environmental product declaration. Shorthand is EPD, EPD, Environmental Product Declaration. They should give me an environmental product declaration for that particular valve at the point where it leaves their factory gate or at the point where it leaves their distributor's gate. There's a little bit of a gray area there, but let's not worry too much about that. And what that EPD tells me is that the energy, the energy that's used to get that to that state. So how much machine? So I got the iron out of the ground. I did some smelting. I made it into steel. I then took the steel and made it into bar. Then I took the bar and I made it into ingots. And I took the ingots and I put it on the machine and I drilled all the holes in the valve. And at the end of it, I got this valve block. And I know from the very beginning because every manufacturer's given me their EPD and I've added my data in. So when it gets to you, you have an EPD that says right, this valve has taken this much CO2e. That's the easy win. For you, that's the easy win. If your supplier is not giving you the EPD, then don't buy from them. It's very simple. Okay. That's going to take a little bit of time to come through, but that's what I would suggest.
So do I understand, Andrew, that with this new input, the decision will not be, of course, the cost will still be very important, but the time is still be important, the cost, but now we have new input that will be the carbon calculation that maybe
Yeah.
you need to change one material, or like you said, change for a different supplier because it will provide a better number for the carbon calculation. No?
Well, what we're trying, yeah, but we need to think about the whole story. So I'm just giving you the first part of the story. So then we have to look at how we're going to use that particular component through its life and how we're going to dispose of it. And all those have carbon values. And every time we do an added value activity, we add carbon. Every time we use it in life, maybe I've got an actuator valve which I need to switch the power on or off, whatever. I'm using power. So every time we use energy, every time we do an added value activity, we're adding to the carbon embodied carbon in that particular product set. So that's a story, but that's not the end of it. What we're really looking for, what we're really trying to get to, is that our projects at the point when we've built the thing, we've used it in use, and we've disposed of it, that whole life cycle should be net zero. That's the key. The carbon is just a way of us baselining where we are. What we're trying to do is to get all of our projects to be carbon neutral, carbon net zero. Now, that's really interesting because what we're still arguing about what that means. We still we kind of know roughly what it means, but what does it really mean? We're still arguing about that. Um, but let's take a building, for example, because it's probably easier to think about a building. So if we have the construction phase, we know there's embodied carbon there. There's carbon to get materials and plant and people to site. And then there's carbon actually used on site in terms of energy to run the porter cabins, to run the diggers, to run the cranes. Okay, so it's really quite simple. Then we hand that building over to occupancy. There's a through life. Let's just think about maintenance, repairs and maintenance, and the energy we use to keep that building at a temperature and humidity that we can work in. But then at the end, we need to demolish the building and return the site for reuse or return the site to nature, whatever we're trying to do. That's the life cycle. And at the end of that life cycle, we want that building to be net zero. Okay, so how on earth do we do that? Well, that's really hard. We've got to get the lowest, we've got to try and get, given the fact we must deliver the building fully functional, fully fit for purpose. So we can't change the purpose of the building just because we get lower carbon. We have to deliver that building fully functional, fully purposed, fully usable, fully occupiable for the lowest possible carbon. Now, through life, we have decarbonisation curves for the energy grid. We have decarbonisation curves for materials like paint. Now, depending on what paint you use, we'll have different carbon values. So all of that can be taken into consideration. But we're still going to be left with a bit of carbon at the end that we couldn't, we just got this piece of carbon at the end that we couldn't get rid of through engineering, through procurement, through strategies, through methodologies. Have some carbon left. We still have to deal with this. Now, if you wait to the end of the life cycle of the project to deal with this, it's too late. We need to be dealing with this gap between the carbon and the net zero right at the beginning of the project, because we may want to put in some solar energy. We may want to put in some wind energy. We may want to buy an extra piece of land and put in a pond and some grassland or whatever. So even though the carbon challenge is at the end of the project, we have to deal with it at the beginning of the project. And that's probably the hardest part for estimators to get their head around. It's not, oh, I bought this steel from Norway and the carbon is really low, therefore I've done my job. It's the whole life cycle.
And
Um,
and it sounds that is not so simple. And my question is, we have tools, we have softwares that can support the business and the companies to try uh, to learn and of course to start to apply this methodology and to have this reference that you talk about and to support to do this analysis as well.
there are tools coming through. There are some really nice high level tools that you can use at the very beginning of a design that are quite nice. They have their place, but they're not detailed enough to allow us to do any real engineering analysis, to do any real down carboning. We used to say down cost down practice. Now we have a carbon down practice, and just as we have value for money, we have value for carbon. So it's and you have earned value in your project controls. You need to have earned the carbon in your project controls, right? So everything you just think anything you can do with cost, you have to do with carbon, including uncertainty, including risk. What is the risk of carbon? Right. The risk of carbon is in its CO2e. There's a risk that I might have more CO2e than I expected.
Mhm.
But the mitigation and the risk event implication are both in money. So now even in my risk, I've got this kind of headache where the core of the risk is in one thing, and the mitigation and the cost is in something completely different. So it just needs thinking about. Just we're going to get there. If you get the right software package these days, you can add carbon in. Then you need to go and find the carbon data. Now you need to go and work with companies. There's a company called BCIS that have some really good cost of carbon data for the building industry. There's 2050 materials that have some really good carbon, but they just have materials. They don't have, as far as I understand, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think they just have materials. It's called 2050 materials. Trying to trying to get ready for 2050 when we have to be carbon net zero. They have some really good stuff. There's lots of good places to go and get data. We ourselves are building an EPD database for our clients to access because we want to give that as a service as well. Probably we'll do ours lined up with these other material vendors, these other material suppliers, because we're all chasing the same data, so it would make sense to share some of the information at some point. But you need to go and look at, if you're in the manufacturing area, if you're in a manufacturing machine shop, you need to apportion the energy that you're using in the added value transformation. So if you're machining cast iron or valves, or you're machining wood or whatever you're machining, the amount of time that part is on the machine being manufactured, you need to apportion into the EPD the carbon value for the machine running. Okay, so there are companies that can help you with that. We have also some exotic materials, particularly in the oil and gas industry. Or in the nuclear industry, you have materials that aren't seen in other parts of industry. We even have colleagues of ours, partners of ours, that will give you a specific EPD for that material or that product because it's not something that we're used to doing.
Yeah, and one question that I have, and do you know if there any training available for someone that wants to learn more about this topic, or is not yet, is not, is difficult to find
Okay,
because
there's
it's a
some
new
really,
topic, no, or it's
yeah.
not, maybe not, but when I look the road, maybe in UK we have see some regulations, but not in all the countries, so it's something that is increasing the importance, and I don't know if you have a lot of trainings available.
Not yet. So we have obviously we have built training around our own product and how to go and collect and interpret EPDs into our database. Obviously, the BCIS have a little bit of training, which is quite good. RICS, if you're a member of RICS, it's got quite good. The ACOST are they're not a training provider as such, but they are looking at how they can service the membership of the ACOST. Um, I don't think there's any college. I mean, there, you can go and do sustainability. You can go and do all these kind of college courses and degrees. Of course, you can. But from an estimating point of view, that's not what we need. What we need is how, why, where, when. We don't need all these degree courses. We need a very practical course. And the first company that writes that practical course will scratch the surface because there's a lot of detail. What we've been talking about today is a very high level stuff, Helber, but the devil is in the detail. Same as your cost. There's no really good cost estimating courses. There's no courses out there that teach you to be a cost estimator. You kind of stumble across things and you kind of learn as you go along. Um,
Yeah.
and we do teach a module on cost estimating at Bath University. It's the first one that I know of that is specifically around cost and carbon estimating for undergrads. And I'm sure there's other people doing it as well, by the way. I'm sure we're not the only ones, but you got to look hard because it's new, and anything that's new is going to be scary.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe the next book we write together, Help, we write one on
Yes,
cost and
it would
carbon.
be a pleasure. I try to be honest, Andrew. It is my book. In the last chapter, you see that there's something that I'm trying to talk about this topic, but it's just more insights. But it's not all full information. But if you want to see something, I am trying to propose a process. I am trying to show how to calculate, but it's just an overview. I will be honest, I'm not expert in this topic, but it's from what I learn from the books and from the internet. I try to curate a introduction um, about this topic, and I would like also to share with, if you are watching us here, in the book, when you buy, you have a tool as well in Excel with all the exercise, um, and you can change the inputs as open tool, no password, and you can see everything and change everything that you want as well. So we arrive in the end of the life. I can see that some guys that here in the send comments. I believe that they was in the previous one. So how will you be uh, to participate for the giveaway is just if you can type in the comments hashtag giveaway, you'll be allowed to participate of the giveaway. Let's see, but I know that some of these guys they have the book, so let's see if someone will place here. If not, I will just see in the tool, no entries. But so what I will do, probably I will do another giveaway in LinkedIn for everyone that is seeing the post. I will try to send me a message, and I will do in the LinkedIn a giveaway. I think that we have more visibility. So maybe, and you, if you can, um, your final comments first. I would like to say thank you so much for your time, for your presence. I know how busy we are in this initial of the year. A lot of things happen, so thank you for your presence here. It was very great to be here with you. I learned a lot, and not the first time, but in other events that I had the pleasure to stay with you, I learned a lot as well. So thank you for your presence. Anything that you want to add to final comments here, please?
Yeah, I think if you're involved with estimating, then it's the best career you can have. It's so exciting. It's so much more than just numbers. It's understanding. It's being a detective. It's going to tell stories. It's living the life of the project before the project's even a reality. You live that life before it's even realized, which is fantastic.
And
Train yourself by books. Educate yourself. Invest in yourself. Best thing you can do is invest in yourself. There are really good books out there that you can buy and invest in yourself. And that would be my advice, Helber.
thank you, and I totally agree with you. I think that cost estimation is a topic that we can make a career. I think that it's a lot of opportunities in many companies, many different industries as well, and is a topic that if you're working, for example, I am working the oil and the gas, but I know that if you move for nuclear, you'll be able to work because there are a lot of things that are similar, and so
Mm.
you can navigate for different industries. This is what I am saying. So
Hmm.
I think that you have a lot of opportunities, and it's something that, if I can say as well, it's you need to try to think about how you can improve the analysis. I think this is one of the key challenges nowadays, is how you can, like Andrew said, you need to ask the correct questions. You need to see what you can find here, uh, cost opportunities reductions, or where they can find something here that we miss during the execution. So in the end of the day, it's very important that you learn and you understand about the scope. I was talking some few years ago with one of the major players in the oil and the gas industry, and what they told me that for normally for the one employee to become member of the cost estimation team, they need to be working projects and maybe um, close of the construction phase for 5 years, when they know exact, because they need to understand the scope, they need to
Hmm.
know what they talk about, no, because then they will have the feeling to make the correct questions, and also to understand, oh, I can see that something could be wrong here. So it's very important that you understand what we talk about. So again, thank you very much, Andrew, for your time, for your presence here. Thank you very much, you that here with us now, and you watching the later as well. I will share the link later as well in LinkedIn, so the team will be able to click and see later. Thank you, Andrew, so much. Thank you, everyone. We will have another last comment from my side here. We will have another live next week. We will be only in Portuguese because I will do for Brazilians, and we will have an Aldo Matos. I don't know, Andrew, if you know, but he's a very famous guy in Brazil for this area cost estimation, and it will be a pleasure to have a conversation with him as well. So thank you. Happy New Year for everyone, and I hope that we see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Helber. Thanks very much. Take care.